hands together, please? I know the temperature is almost below 10 degrees right now, and it's a bit cold. Can we have them reduce the temperature here? We need some heat in the house. Are we good with that? We like the temperature. Okay, so you show me that temperature is good when you do a good clap. Yeah, can we put our hands together again? Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Let's also put our hands together for the chairman of the event, Lady Amedit Ibru, FIoD, publisher of The Guardian. Yes. So good to have you join us, madam. We appreciate. We appreciate. Thank you so very much. Okay, thank you so very much. Our special guest of honor, Al-Aji. I'm sure they want to join some online things here. Can we put our hands together for Al-Aji Garba Abubakar, FIoD, Registrar General at the CAC? Is he here yet? Okay. Registrar and CEO, Financial Reporting Council, Ambassador Shuaibu Adamu Ahmed, FCA. Is he here yet? Fantastic. So good to have you join us this beautiful morning. So beautiful morning. Yes, we're expecting Chief Mrs. Akonde to join us pretty soon. Every time I see her, she gladdens my heart. I mean, she puts so much joy when she talks. I like her spirit. I like her tenacity. She'll join us pretty soon. Yes, Chief Chris Okuno, my very good daddy, adopted daddy. So good to have you join us. Can we put our hands together for Chief Okuno? Okay. Let's also appreciate a few of our past presidents that are here at this beautiful morning. Architect Thomas Awagu, FIoD. So good to have you. So good to have you join us, sir. We appreciate the clap is going down. It's going down. It's going down. Can we do better than that? Thank you very much. We also hoping that we should have a few people join us this morning. We have Mr. Chicken Wanze, FIoD, is here. So good to have you join us. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. Al-Aji Ahmed, yes, Al-Aji Ahmed Mohammed, Rufaya Mohammed, FIoD is here. Thank you so very much, Al-Aji. We appreciate you and appreciate all that you do for the Institute. A few of our elders are also here this morning. Let's appreciate some of our elders that are here. We have Mr. Biodun Jaji, FIoD. So good to have you join us this morning. We also have Ashiwaju Fola Oshibo, FIoD. So good to have you join us, sir. We appreciate your presence. Thank you for all you do. I did mention Chief Mrs. Oprah Benson, FIoD. Mama, don't stand. Can we appreciate her? Thank you very much, Mama. Thank you. We also have Mr. Tom. Mr. Tom, yes, I can't get this clearly, that is okay. Mr. Tom, you're here. I wish I get this name correctly, but I'll get it before the end of the show. So good to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say a very big thank you. In no particular order, would appreciate everyone that is here as time goes on the program. Did I say program? I'm not on TV. No, I'm not. Okay, on this event. Anyways, my name is David Ubabodike. I work for Civic Television. I happen to be an anchor for the breakfast show, News Up, every morning. I'm also the business editor for Civic Television. So permit me, I get paid for talking. So when I talk, just know I'm getting paid every time I talk. Okay, so at this point in time, can we put our hands together as I make welcome Mrs. Ije Jidenma, Dr. Mrs. Ije Jidenma FIoD, for our welcome address. She's the President and Chairman of Council, IOD Nigeria. Can we put our hands together for her as she comes to the podium? Can we put our hands together for her as she comes to the podium? Can we put our hands together for her as she comes to the podium? Thank you. That sounds like someone from Celestial Church of God. Thank you. That sounds good anyways. Madam President.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. Distinguished audience, it gladdens my heart to be here with you today. Our keynote speaker, Professor Enase Ikonode, FIoD, the Vice Chancellor of the Pan Atlantic University. The chair of this occasion, Lady Amedit Ibru, FIoD, the special guest of honor, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, FIoD, the Registrar General of the Corporate Affairs Commission. One of our special guests, the CEO of the Financial Reporting Council, Ambassador Shoaibu Adam Ahmed. You are welcome. The first Vice President of the Institute of Directors Nigeria, Alhaji FIoD. The second Vice President, Mr. Adetunji Oyebanji. Immediate past President, Bishop Nowo. The Doyin sends his greetings. He wanted to be here, but he is a little bit indisposed. Chairman of College of Past Presidents and Elders, Mr. Mrs Ije Jidenma FIoD. Our past president is well acknowledged here, and I'm very, very glad that you are all here today. Thank you very much for your support. A big round of applause for our past presidents. Our past presidents have always been there for us, and we lean on their shoulders. Members of the Governing Council and the Executive Committee of the Institute, office bearers, chairmen of committees, they are the ones that have done the great work, lifting, the great lifting. Chairman of the 40th Anniversary Committee, Mr. Biennial FIoD, captains of industry and members of the IoD family, gentlemen of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our elders, you've been acknowledged here, our elders that are here with us, thank you very much. Thank you very much for being at the background, for prompting us, advising us when we cross the line. We are very, very grateful to have you here. Support us at this biennial lecture. I'm actually elated to welcome all of you to the 2023 biennial lecture of IoD Nigeria with the theme Cultural Norms versus Good Governance, Balancing the Tug of War. As a tradition, IoD Nigeria hosts a biennial lecture in honor of its outgoing president and chairman of the Governing Council at the end of his or her 2-year tenure. I feel humbled that the 2023 biennial lecture is today, and I have the honor and privilege to prepare to hand over the baton of leadership of this institute, by God's grace, next week to the next president and chairman of the Governing Council of our great institute. I am privileged to receive your excellencies, distinguished captains of industry, friends and family. Yes, friends and family we have become, who are present physically and virtually too. And I thank you very much for honoring our invitation with your esteemed presence. The last 2 biennial lectures of our cherished institute was given by international governance experts with great pedigrees invited from outside our shores. One attended physically, while the other attended virtually amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. This year, we are determined to look inwards amongst us and identify one of our brightest and best who exemplifies the ethos that we espouse. A role model of sorts. We did not look too far to identify from a citadel of learning what has become a sort of oasis amongst us, an indomitable Amazon who is quietly leaving solid and enviable footprints on the sands of time. A round of applause for our distinguished keynote speaker, I wish to especially thank our keynote speaker, Professor Nasser, exponent of FIoD, the Vice Chancellor of Pan Atlantic University, for accepting our invitation to deliver the lecture on this auspicious occasion. I also appreciate our special guest of honor, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, MIoD, the Registrar General, Corporate Affairs Commission, for honoring us with his presence. I think it's virtual. The Corporate Affairs Commission has remained a key strategic partner to the Institute. The chairman of this occasion, Lady Maiden Ibu, is one of our highly respected elders, one of the highly respected elders of this institute, and a trailblazer in her own right. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have no doubt in my mind that the theme of this year's biennial lecture, cultural norms versus good governance, balancing the tug of war, is carefully thought out and well selected. It brings to the fore the crucial meeting of societal norms, values, and principles of good governance. Cultural norms can be described as a set of beliefs and practices supported by shared beliefs and can be seen as the basis upon which a particular society rests its standards and general expectations on. In summary, a behavior of collective action is driven by the cultural norm of the society. On the other hand, good governance refers to the creation of a balance in the management of societal objectives, that is, the efficient use of resources, accountability in the use of power, and general good behavior in the social environment. I believe that we can feel the tug of war within our society. Ours is a society in transition. Ours is a society that is being pulled at different sides by strong influences locally and internationally, and with expectations to be met. According to Aras and Crowder 2007 and 2011, for there to be a good interplay of adherence to social cultural norms and good governance, there should be a synergic effort of all the constituents of the society. I am therefore as eager as you as today to listen to our accomplished professor as she delves into these two concepts and enlighten us on how to navigate within this tug of war amidst the various curves, amidst the various bends, amidst the various bends in the journey of compliance, ethical values, and good governance. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as my tenure as President and Chairman of the Governing Council of our great institute draws to a close, I recall the pledge I made after taking the oath of office. The pledge after taking the oath of office, where I promised to weave my strategic objectives around the future readiness of our great institute, the Institute of Directors. We were just gradually coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic when I took over, and with the future greatly marred with uncertainty, volatility, and the world as we knew it was fast disappearing. I identified key pillars on which this philosophy of victory would rest during my 2 years leadership of the Institute. And these pillars include inclusiveness, growth and development, digital transformation, the chartership of the Institute of Directors, the IoD House Project, and digital transformation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, your institute is today as inclusive as ever. We haven't arrived there yet, but I can assure you that we have worked hard to extol gender diversity within the institute. And partnership within the institute, mainstreaming high-achieving female directors and encouraging aspiring ones through several developmental programs and capacity building programs, mentoring schemes, coaching, apprenticeship. Our Women's Director Development Committee has had its hand on the plow. The icing on the cake was a town hall meeting which was held earlier this year, where I had one-on-one engagement with the female directors and discussed several areas for the benefit of the institute. Again, today we have intergenerational workforce. A young directors forum conceived by my predecessors in office gained a new momentum and impetus in the last 2 years with the inauguration of the pioneer executive committee of the forum led by Mrs Ije. With their own executive committee in place, the YDF got a breath of new life, and they have organized many programs targeted at the young crop of corporate directors. I know they are the ones that hold the future. So I'm particularly delighted to note that the YDF dream had not only come to fruition, but now has a life of its own. A round of applause for our young directors. Our growth and development efforts have yielded fruits as well, and despite the challenges in the operating environment has spread well in the last year. We have witnessed growth in all areas of operation, including our membership base. We have improved our membership services and delivery of value to members, and witnessed growth with more than 800 new joiners to the institute within this period. The governing council of the institute has also put in place strategies and policies that will ensure the sustainability of the institute. Our digitalization project is on the front burner. We have put in place a digital secretariat and can operate real-time online, especially for membership services. These include membership registration, payment, subscription. We have perfected our online training programs, and we are working on introduction of the IoD learning management system. Our cloud-based ERP has ensured that our staff can work virtually and seamlessly from anywhere in the world. We still have on our plate, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the setting up of a robust virtual platform that would enable you, members of our institute, to exchange ideas, services, products amongst yourselves seamlessly and unfettered without the institute's intervention or anything, so that you can optimize your network value proposition. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am also pleased to report to you that the deal for the Chartered Institute of Directors in Nigeria was signed into law by former President Muhammadu Buhari this year on 26th May 2023. I must say that this is a befitting parting gift to us as we mark our 40th anniversary. It has been a long journey. It has been long in coming because this initiative was commenced several years ago. So I would like you to permit me to seize this opportunity to thank every single person that has contributed to the success of this project. It is the output of teamwork, which IOD is well known for. It is about focus, it is about persistence, it is about doggedness. The office bearers, the charter committee, as well as other influential members of the institute, other influential members of society, and our own strategic partners worked together to improve on the foundational work done by the past presidents of the institute, and we are grateful to all of them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is well deserving. Let me, however, caution that the journey for the new IOD, or let me say Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria, has just begun. We need to expertly navigate the process of transition into the new Chartered Institute of Directors framework requirements to achieve a professionalization of directorship objectives, as well as serve as directors' capacity builder for the nation, for nation building. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, the IOD House project has also received a lot of attention within the last 2 years. The Governing Council of the Institute has put in place a good governance structure to ensure the smooth construction of the IOD towers that aligns the Governing Council's governance role and the board of the Temple Court Limited operational role in the construction of this well-conceived edifice. I am pleased that the governance structure has been approved by the council and is now operational. If you turn to page 20 of this program, you will see the concept. The foundation laying of the IOD tower is scheduled to hold on the 20th June 2023. We await with bated breath as this remarkable milestone aligns with the Institute's 40th anniversary. I'm sure if you go through page 20, you will see what is there, and you are all invited. Let me not take too much of your time, as today is the biennial lecture, and we are all excited and waiting to hear from our guest speaker. I have no doubt in my mind that we have done our best collectively and individually within the last 2 years to achieve our strategic objectives, which is moving IOD forward, preparing it for the challenges of the future. Yes, there have been stumbling blocks, no doubt. Yes, there have been unforeseen circumstances, no doubt. Yes, I believe that we have a robust governance system, and I'm sure that a system of continuity, which was put in place some years ago, will ensure that my successor builds on the modest achievements that we have recorded within the last 2 years. I also firmly believe that this will be a befitting tribute and legacy to our forebears like late Chief Enofi Gobadia, and forebears like late Dr. Mrs Olutoyin Olakuri FIoD, and the other phantoms of progress the past president quietly seated here today. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I welcome you to the 2023 IOD Nigeria Biennial Lecture. Have a great time and enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Can we put our hands together again for Madam President? You know, I haven't followed activities of the IOD for many years. Many years. I have seen how the institute has grown. Every new leadership comes in with something unique and something new. It's more or less like always building on what the past leader has started. And I think it's fantastic. I remember the days of the past president, Chief Okunowo, and COVID struck. And we all were wondering, what would IOD now do? How do we interact? How do we get activities working? And all from the blues, virtual meetings started. Virtual conferences started. And there was no dull moment, even with COVID, during the era of Chief Chris Okunowa. Once again, can we put our hands together for all the past leaders of past president of IOD? I think we have done fantastically well over the years. Thank you so very much. Madam President, you almost made me cry every time you keep saying it's like a parting gift. You just letting us know that you are leaving, and but you're not leaving with my gift, sir. Let me remind you again, we are family right now. We are family. We are family. All right, let me also appreciate everyone that has come this morning. I know I left out a few names initially, so I will do that again. I would include a few of our special dignitaries that are here this morning. I want to say a very big welcome to the Director, Security and Exchange Commission, Alhaji Lamido Yeguda, who is ably represented by Mrs. Afsat Rufai, FCA. She is the head, Lagos Zonal Office. Thank you so very much. Just send our greetings to the DG of SEC. We also have Mr. Austin Enajemo Isire, FIoD, is the honorary treasurer of IOD Nigeria. Can we appreciate it? Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. I also want to say a very big welcome and a very big appreciation to members of Council and Executive Committee of IOD. Fantastic job we are all doing within the Institute. Without these individuals, we probably wouldn't have a good day here. Our sponsors, I want to say a very big thank you to all our sponsors. We have the BOA Group representatives here. We have the Chrome Group also here. We have OilServe. We have Umugini. We have the International Bureaus PLC. All of these are sponsors here. Can we put our hands together for all our sponsors? Thank you for the monies. Thank you for the goodwill. Thank you for the gifts and all of that. So let's run as quickly as we can. Yes, I did tell you that we'll try and bring a balance in between the cultural norms and good governance. Which is very important. Like my uncle that they taught him was a commissioner appointee. I'm sure they've been doing their list, cultural list for him. The man will get there now, start thinking how he's going to service the entire community with government money, not knowing that he was just a clerk in the court. Can we put our hands together as I make welcome our chairman of the occasion, Lady Made in Hebrew, MIOD, for a special remark. She is also the publisher of the Guardian newspaper. Can we put our hands together once again? It is not easy to run a newspaper in a country like Nigeria. The Guardian is one paper that I've known for as long as I could breathe. I think you've done a good job, Madam Hebrew. Thank you very much. Welcome.
Good morning, House. The President, Chairman of Government Council, IOD Nigeria, and Chief Host, Dr. Ije Jidenma. You see, I missed the word Mrs., and I think I should use this opportunity. Why do we give ourselves double titles? Even the highest post in the world is the President of America. It comes in Mr. President. Anyway, that's just by the way. But she is Dr. Ije Jidenma, and I stay by that. Yes. Members and a keynote speaker and Vice Chancellor, Pan Atlantic University, Professor Enase Okenedo, the Special Guest of Honor and Registrar, Corporate Affairs Commission, Alhaji Garba Abubakar, member of IOD, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a joyful morning to you all and a very warm welcome to the Institute of Directors, Nigeria Biennial Lecture. Today's theme, Cultural Norms versus Good Governance. Balancing the tug of war and its timing could not have come at a more auspicious moment. I say this for three important reasons. One, exactly 18 days ago, 29th of May, 2023 precisely, Nigeria witnessed a relatively peaceful handover of power from the immediate past President Muhammad Buhari to the incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. 2. The colorful fanfare of that occasion on 29 May 2023 is nothing to be compared with the rightful, legitimate expectations of approximately 220 million Nigerians who seek enduringly effective security in their homes, schools, workplaces, roads, trains, airways, waterways. B, seek gainful employment above and beyond the minimum wage of 30,000 naira per month. C, access to sustainably better qualitative health and adult social care. D, financial inclusivity and the capacity meaningfully partake in the vast opportunities which the Nigerian economy can offer when steered in the right visionary direction, hopefully stemming the Japa syndrome, where our youths flee the country in large numbers in search of greener pastures overseas. 3, effective leadership in all its ramifications. It's non-negotiable in the desperately urgent quest to transform Nigeria from a monocultural, oil-dependent economy to one with a hugely diversified market, orientated and transparent economy, which consistently optimizes its enormous human capital, natural resources in gas, bitumen, gold, iron ore, maritime resources, and more. Professor Enase Okonedo, our guest speaker, will no doubt thrash out all these issues in substantially more detail. It is in the realistic expectation that we are not only all learn from it, but, and importantly, use those findings to help shape policy direction and formulation, especially as this closely aligns with the IOD Nigerians' own vision of being a world-class professional institute, consistently promoting best corporate governance practices, director development, and advocacy. Rest assured that there will be an interactive opportunity to ask questions at the end of the lecture to ensure that these do not interrupt the flow of today's lecture. So now, please join me in welcoming our key speaker, Professor Enase Okonede, to the podium with a round of applause. Well done.
Can we put our hands together? Let's keep putting our hands together for me in Hebrew. Yes, thank you so very much.
Thank you. I will return.
Can we put our hands together still for Prof? Thank you. Thank you so very much. We have a few other activities. You know, what we want to do is we want to build, so when Prof comes in, it's like the icing on the cake, so let's not, all right. And we still have a few more remarks that we'll be having this beautiful morning. It's pretty cold in here. Am I alone in this? All right. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So, like I did say, we would like to build, and just so we could crescendo with Prof's lecture this beautiful morning. So we have a few more goodwill messages. May I invite Ambassador Shuaibu Adamu Ahmed, FCA, Registrar, CEO of the Financial Reporting Council, for a goodwill message. Can we put our hands together? Can we just do that, please? Thank you. Thank you.
The President and Chairman of the Governing Council of the Chartered Institute of Directors, immediate past presidents, council members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and privilege for me to be with you this morning at the 2023 biannual lecture. And I want to seize the opportunity to congratulate the outgoing president of the Chartered Institute, Dr. Mrs Ije Jidenma, for a very successful tenure. I say successful from the perspective of the Financial Reporting Council in three areas. The first area is that sometime early last year, the National Assembly embarked on the amendment of the Financial Reporting Council Act. And one of the key amendment areas was the composition of the governing board of the Financial Reporting Council. We had a very unruly board, 23-member board, and many of the institutions on the governing council were actually institutions that the FRC is supposed to have an oversight role over. So the final amendment to the act, which was signed by the president just about the same time that he signed the Charter Institute of Directors Act, was that 12 of the institutions were removed from the governing council, but the Chartered Institute of Directors was added onto the governing board. And this largely came about because of the hard work of the outgoing president. She was on and about. Early last year, I think she came on a courtesy call to the Financial Reporting Council. And one of the discussions that transpired was the need for the IOD to come on board on the Governing Council of the FRC. So, Madam, thank you so much for that. The second area is that I think for the last 6 or 7 years, we had a draft memorandum of understanding between the Financial Reporting Council and the Institute of Directors, which was never signed. Madam President, again, last year, she pushed onto that MOU, was eventually signed, which now gives way or paves way for joint training and capacity building programs to be undertaken by the Financial Reporting Council alongside the Chartered Institute of Directors. Madam, again, thank you so much for that effort. And the last bit is that Madam again pushed for the Financial Reporting Council to join and become a member of the IOD Center of Corporate Governance. This has been something that has long been outstanding. Government institutions, public institutions such as the CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, SEC, members of the IOD Center, but FRC over the years was not able to join. Again, sometime early this year, I think the FRC has joined to become a member of the IOD Center for Corporate Governance. So, Madam, on behalf of myself and the entire staff of the Financial Reporting Council, we want to thank you most sincerely for deepening the relationship between the Financial Reporting Council and the Chartered Institute of Directors. And I hope and pray that the incoming president will sustain the tempo of that relationship. So on this note, Madam, we want to wish you God's continued blessings of long life, good health, happiness, and success in your future endeavors. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much also. Thank you. Thank you so very much. You know, I can guarantee you that the incoming president has no choice. He doesn't have a choice than to do, if not better than past presidents have done, because with all these past presidents here and the council members, I can guarantee you that they will be on his matter. Anyways, thank you once again. So we appreciate the relationship with the IOD. Whilst Merin Ibro was giving her welcome remark, I told you I was looking forward to seeing her in the hall. She walked in, talking about Chief Mrs Ije Jidenma FIoD. Can we appreciate her? Thank you. I'd followed Mrs. Ije Jidenma from her days as the president of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. That was after she was a minister. I was pretty young while she was a minister, so I didn't know so much about her. I followed her since then. Well done, Mama. Thank you so very much. Thank you. All right, so in the spirit of goodwill messages, I would like to invite the representative of the DG of the Securities and Exchange Commission, talking about Mrs. Afsat Rufai, FCA, Head Lagos Zonal Office, for the goodwill message. I'll do you the honors and bring the microphone to you. Thank you.
Good morning, distinguished President of the Institute of Directors of Nigeria. Good morning, other office holders, First President, my former boss, Mr. Gyonjaji, and all. Oh, I can also see my lecturer, my former lecturer, Mr. Dr. Kata, Dr. Hassan, and all members present here. I'm a lifelong student, so don't worry, I have a lot of lecturers. Please permit me to stand and speak to you from here. I'm a bit challenged climbing the stage at this point. I bring you good tidings from the DG Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Lamido Abubakar Yuguda, who is unavoidably absent today. He's attending the IOSCO conference and he had no choice but to attend that. The IOA felicitates with the IOD, especially because we're a partner of the IOD CCG. He felicitates particularly with Dr. Jidenma. Let me also miss out the missus, as Madam did, for a successful tenure. We are glad that you are able to deliver on the much expected chartered status of the Institute, and we are proud of you, Madam, for doing that. Well done. We're glad to also be here today to participate in the lecture themed The Cultural Norms versus Good Governance, Balancing the Tug of War. As you know very well, the Securities and Exchange Commission is very, let me say it the way people say it, we're very big on issues of governance, and it's a thing of joy to listen to someone who I beg to say is my family's teacher, and I'll tell her how she is. So maybe I'll be your student for an hour or thereabouts, but I'll be graduating today, if you permit, right? I don't have to do 4 years in PAU. So we'll be glad to listen to you, to take on the knowledge in addition to what we already have. And we hope that we'll continue to partner with IOD going forward. Madam, we wish you well as you take on greater endeavors. We also wish the incoming president a very successful tenure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Afsat Rufai, FCA. Fantastic goodwill message there. Okay, the moment we've all been waiting for is here. May I invite to the podium Dr. Segun Alabi to beat the drums for our professor. Thank you so very much, Doctor.
Good morning, everyone. I have the singular honor to recite the profile of the guest speaker this morning. She is no other than Professor Enase Okunedo, FCA, FIoD. May I please crave your indulgence to please rise as I read your profile. Professor Enase Okunedo, FCA, FIoD, is currently the Vice Chancellor of the Pan-Atlantic University, Lagos, Nigeria. Proud to this, she was the Dean of Lagos Business School from July 2009 until December 2020. As Dean, she was instrumental in transforming Lagos Business School into a globally recognized and the foremost business school in Africa, gaining global accreditations and rankings. Proud to joining Lagos Business School, she worked in the financial services sector in Nigeria. She serves on several boards in the management education sector, including the boards of Global Business School Network, GBSN, United Nations Principles for Responsible Management Education, and the Academic Advisory Board of Civic School of Government, University of Oxford. I think she deserves a round of applause. She has also served on the board of Graduate Management Admission Council, owners of the GMAT exams, and held leadership positions on the boards of AACSB International as Secretary and Treasurer, the Association of African Business Schools, where she was chairperson. She has also served on various corporate boards and is currently an independent non-executive director on the boards of Ecobank Transnational International and ATC Nigerian Wireless Infrastructure Limited, where she is the chairperson. She is an active public speaker and has presented at numerous conferences globally on issues of management education in emerging markets. She is also widely published in academic journals and is the author of 2 books, The Determinants of Stock Buying Behavior of the Individual Investor in the Nigerian Equity Market, 2011, and The Art of Decision Making, a Guide to Executive Decision Making in Africa, 2020. I present to you Professor Enase Okunedo, FIoD. I believe she deserves more applause until she gets to the podium. Thank you very much.
Let's keep the hands together still. Let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The President, Chairman of Governing Council of the Institute of Directors of Nigeria, members of the Governing Council of the Institute, the incoming President, Alhaji Orodo, past President here present, the Chairman of the occasion, Lady Nibru, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. I'd like to note that we're together. I must begin by congratulating the Institute on this biannual lecture. They have kept going over the last few years, but most especially to congratulate the outgoing President on her achievements together with her team over the last 2 years. While these were being reeled out, I was impressed by how much she's been able to do in those last 2 years. And I couldn't help but think, it's amazing the capacity of women once they get the chance to do something. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank the President as well as the DG CEO for inviting me to share my perspectives on the topic today. I have sat on boards in various sectors, for-profits, not-for-profits, on publicly considered companies, small, large, a variety of boards over the past perhaps 23 years. And in 2010, 2009, I was invited to join a board in a different country. And I had accepted to join the board, and I became a board member. And as part of it, for some reason, most times on boards, I am charged with governance and nominations. So I was chairing the governance and nominations, and we had identified a brilliant lady who could join the board and had gone through the process, and she'd been invited to join the board. At her first board meeting, there was a chairman of the board, of course. And at her first board meeting, for some reason, we were having this meeting in a different country. This board was not a Nigerian entity. It was an entity in a different country, but we were having a meeting in a different location from where we were staying, so we had to be transported there. For some reason, she got the timing wrong, and then she arrived late. But she found a way to make her way in a foreign country, it was somewhere in Asia, to find her way and arrive at the venue. And as she walked into the venue, the meeting hadn't started. But the chairman, in front of all of us, they come from the same country, lambasted her quite sternly for arriving at that time. I was taken aback. The lady said nothing. The meeting continued. For the course of the meeting, she said nothing. She made no contribution. This is someone that we had, elected to come onto the board, or selected must be the word, to come onto the board because of what she brought. High intellectual capacity. Had engaged with her on several occasions, and nothing happened. The second, nothing happened. So I went to her and I said to her, how come, first of all, on that day that the chairman lambasted you, you said nothing? You just stayed there, you took it all. No excuse, nothing you said. And she said to me, we're from a different race. Herself and the chairman come from the same country, but of different races. She said, we're from a different race. His race, they're the ones in charge, especially in charge of the economy. I cannot risk making a comment or challenging whatever it is that he says, because not only on this board, but elsewhere in my career, it could be threatened. That was my first insight on how culture affects the workings of a board. And since then, over the course of the last several years since then, I have watched with keen interest the dynamics that I see on boards. Because board dynamics is a social construct, is a way of behaving. But then what it is that's important is how we relate to one another for the effective functioning of boards. And so, I have come to the conclusion that culture is something that affects the efficient functioning of boards. And I was given a blank slate to decide what to speak on today. And I thought to myself, the past two speakers, very impressive, with a very impressive pedigree and history of doing work and practicing corporate governance, but they're foreign speakers. Again, when I think about what it is, several of us in this room and several of us online have attended various governance courses. But what it is that we must recognize is that the practice of corporate governance is contextual. In other words, if I practice corporate governance in the Nigerian context, it is different from when I practice it. The basic tenets and principles of good corporate governance remain the same, but there is an impact on culture. And I say that from the perspective of having had the privilege of sitting on board in several different countries over the course of the last 2 decades. But then, this influence that societal norms, cultural values, and beliefs exert on how we conduct ourselves, even though how we conduct ourselves, we are adhering to the extant laws and regulations, we must understand the role of culture in corporate governance, especially as it relates to those of us who serve on board in Nigeria. Corporate governance is complex. It goes beyond the rule of law and compliance with regulations. And directors and the board obviously have a key role in ensuring that corporate governance is practiced in a good way within organizations. But of course, we can't consider that without what I have just spoken about. In other climes, research has been done to understand these influences. In Nigeria, we have spoken about this, but there is scant research that has been done, that has been documented on how these cultural norms affect the practice. But in several other places, a lot has been done. I think some of us may be familiar with the work of Hofstede. He is a big guru on culture. But then he deviated, well, not deviated. He was the one who first came up or proposed the hypothesis that national culture has an influence on the boards and efficient working of boards. And since then, others have taken it up. He did it, he conducted research of 399 companies in the industrial sectors across 17 different countries. And he was looking at the differences, and at the end of which, he came up with a couple of things that sort of helped him to explain what it is that he sees on boards and the board dynamics as well. However, none has been done to that extent in Nigeria. But then, the cultural values, the norms that we see, they are all embedded in society. But I thought that we may begin by understanding, really, when we talk about culture, what is culture? I know that, the president, in speaking, gave a definition of culture. But perhaps to help us understand it, I just feel the definition really is, as you said, is the shared beliefs, the practices, as well as the material objects of a group of people, which is why we talk about tangible culture and intangible culture. So for instance, if I go to the northern part of the country, or perhaps regions in which desert areas, the way the buildings are built, it's a tangible reflection of the culture. When we talk about intangible culture, the way people from the southwest greet is part of the culture. It's unique to them, it's peculiar, and it's part of this culture. So really, the focus of today's one is really on those knowledge, the attitudes, the beliefs, the goals, the morals and values that are shared by society. But when we talk about values, really, they're cultural standards for discerning what is good and just in society. This is the cultural standard. And when I reflected on this and I thought, what are our values as Nigerians? I came to the conclusion that what? Our values have been shaped by the culture which has evolved over time. And I will speak about this a bit later. And then the beliefs are things that we hold to be true. Humans are social beings from the beginning of time. The Creator made us social by saying, this is man, let me create a partner and a helpmate for this. But there are things that are, there's always a debate about what is nature and what is nurture. Is culture, is it inborn or is it learned? And my view, and I think it's not peculiar to me alone or exclusive to me alone, is that culture is learned. And just an example to highlight this, I was born and raised in Benin City. And in Benin City, where, at least everyone I knew, we went to the market, or somebody went to the market daily, we cooked and ate fresh food. And then when I was 20, I moved to Lagos. And when I moved to Lagos, I saw that that was not the practice. Obviously, because of the challenges of a big city, the traffic, the people going to work and things, is that, people buy food for a month, a week, or so they cook and they store in the freezer. It was very strange to me, as little as it was. It's the same activity, but different ways of engaging in it, depending on where you live, in addition to other relevant factors. And so it is with corporate governance. It's the same idea, it's the same thinking, but perhaps a different way of engaging in it. But culture, as I say, is something that is learned. And I will use the example following the thing about food of my nephew, who came to live with me many decades after I had moved. And when he came, he served meal. One day he said to me, "Auntie, no, this is your cook. She does not know that I don't eat food that has been kept in the freezer." I said, "Welcome. This is Lagos. You are not coming from Benin where you don't eat food that is kept in the freezer." But guess what? He learns. And that is the point. Culture is a learned trait. And that's what it is that we want to speak about. But then, these attributes of culture, the knowledge, the beliefs, the views, they may think that we may not be aware of. It's just that we live together, we act in a certain way, we start to think in a certain way sometimes, and we just do things in a certain way. But then, we take it for granted because these things are generally accepted in society. And we may not recognize that some of the ways of acting born from these attitudes, those values, those beliefs are inimical to good corporate governance. So at this point, let me remind us briefly of what corporate governance is. I mean, there's a plethora of definitions of corporate governance, but I chose two. One from the 2021 biennial lecturer, Professor Mervyn King, who, as you know, I mean, he was chairman emeritus of the King Committee that came up with King 4, well known as a standard for corporate governance globally, but then in South Africa as well. He was a keynote speaker, but he defines corporate governance quite simply as a system by which companies are directed and controlled. Simple. I also looked at the IOD definition of corporate governance, and it says it's a framework of company processes, attitudes that add value to the business, aids its reputation, and ensures its long-term continuity and success. I selected these two because there's some key words here that I believe are relevant for the discussion of today. If I take Professor King's definition, the system by which companies are directed and controlled, so it is a system. But this system does not exist in isolation of the environment. It seems to me that the rules and regulations may not have addressed certain characteristics and peculiarities of the environment that affect how companies are governed, in particular, the cultural norms, values, and beliefs of the operating environment, in this case, Nigeria. Again, from the IOD definition, I call your attention to the phrase, the attitudes that add value to the business and ensures its long-term continuity and success. So today, I hope to spend a bit of time reflecting on the attitudes of directors that may be shaped by the way we behave, our cultural norms, our values, and our beliefs. Put more succinctly, does the Nigerian culture have any effect on corporate governance? Does it contribute to good corporate governance? Does it deter from good corporate governance? Or is it something that perhaps we have not addressed our minds to? Today, my focus is not on corporate culture, which that's organizational culture that remains within organization. The tone is set by the leaders at the top, obviously. These are the expected behaviors and norms for people within a particular organization. This is more about societal culture, which is the structure and organization of individuals and groups. For several years now, the quality, when we talk about the quality of board of directors, is all those things that we have learned over the past few years and which are contained in the various codes, not only in Nigeria but elsewhere. Things such as the board composition, number of independent directors, the role of committees, what committees you should have. All of these are applicable in a jurisdiction. But whilst important, as all of us know, they do not necessarily translate to better decision-making and governance, because we have seen companies, large corporations, that had all of this, but yet it still fails. So it just means that if companies can fail when they have right number of independent directors, committees that are working, all of these that are working, there must be some other factors that contribute to that failure of the board that led to the failure of the companies. But of course, prominent researchers have concluded that indeed, social and cultural norms are equally as important as the laws and regulations in the practice of corporate governance. But then the problem arises when those influences do not conform to the regulatory prescriptions of corporate governance. And so, I would like to examine what those influences in our context are. As we know, several codes exist to ensure good corporate governance in Nigeria. So we have KAMA, we have the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance 2018, we have CBN code, we have SEC code, and then perhaps other sector-specific codes that exist just to ensure that we as directors and the board were doing the right thing. All of these codes, they aim to promote transparency, accountability, and good governance practices because they provide guidelines. They tell you, these are the recommended committees you should have. They suggest things, that have to do with the board structure, the composition, roles and responsibilities, risk management, disclosure, ESG, sustainability, and other aspects of corporate governance. So what is the interplay or conflict of culture and good corporate governance in Nigeria? Are they in consonance or in conflict? As I sat by the incoming president, Alhaji Borodo, he said to me, why do you say cultural norms versus good corporate governance? Why didn't you say cultural norms and good corporate governance? I said, well, in the first instance, I aim to be provocative. In the second instance, is that sometimes I do see a conflict. Okay? So, again, this may be seen, the things that I will, speak about may be seen as generalizations. And as you know, the generalizations, if you're a researcher, you know that, when you take a sample of things, you must ensure that they are representative of the entire population so that, you can say, it is characteristic of this. So with generalizations, there may be some views that may not be representative of the total. But these are the things, again, just from watching my experience and just sitting on board and observing, and also from a few conversations I've had and what people have said, have spoken about in this regard, I come up with a few that I would like to highlight here. The first is the respect for hierarchy versus board independence. Our culture places a strong emphasis on respect for authority figures and elders. As I put there our culture, and I thought, is that true? Can I classify that our Nigerian culture? Or it is the culture in the place in which 65% of the corporations exist in Nigeria exist in Lagos. Okay? So to what extent? So obviously, the practices or the culture of Lagos may have a bearing on, how companies are managed and run, and on certain other things. So there may be a culture, but there's a strong emphasis on respect for authority figures and elders. And this can impact that board dynamics, because there may be a tendency to defer to more senior or influential board members. Now, the reason why I added, it may be Lagos, in which 65% of the entire enterprises in the country are, because, as I mentioned earlier on at the start, I was born and raised in Benin. We don't greet the same way. I am not Benin, but where I come from, we don't greet the same way that people from the southwest will greet. It is not a sign of disrespect. It is just a different culture. But also, it is that we speak directly. So those of us who were born and raised in Benin sometimes get into problems because of our direct speak. And it was very difficult for me at first. My first job after NYC was with a big bank here in Lagos. And I got to the office and everybody was calling somebody, a certain name. I called the person, I addressed the person the same way that I had heard others addressing him. And I was called to the office and given a sound warning about addressing. I thought, but that's what they've been calling you in the place. And he said, I'm not your mate. So that was the first of, the first thing about, we address people. The second was that where I come from, we look at people when we speak. And it was very, if somebody doesn't look at you when they're speaking, we say this person is shifty or has something to hide. And then I came to work, and when I started, getting into positions of authority in the bank, and then also when I joined the business school, I would call, some of the people who work with me, my subordinates, or even my peers, but I was, the boss. And they would look in every direction. So one day I said to one, I said, where I come from, if you don't look at my face, it means that you are dishonest. Where you're looking. And he said to me, no. Here in Lagos, if I look at you, it's that I'm being disrespectful. So I can't look at you. I have to look everywhere. It's not by any means. I'm not being disrespectful, but it's as if I'm challenging you when I look in your face. But guess what? I have seen that play out on board. So that culture of the deference to authority figures, of not being seen to be challenging, that gets in the way of decision making. One of the things that was mentioned in one of the speeches we heard now is to say, we need to, by the president, we need to bring in younger directors. If we talk about effective functioning of boards and we say board diversity is important, we don't need people, all the retired people of a certain age. We need to bring in younger people because the market that we face for many of our products and services was serving this population. So they need a seat on the board in order that we get an idea into the thinking. But then we bring somebody, but then that person is hampered by the culture that says you don't challenge an authority figure, what happens? So we find that board decisions and discussions are influenced by the hierarchical structures and power dynamics that are inherent in the Nigerian culture and could conflict with the principle of board independence and the need for robust oversight of management. That excessive deference hinders effective corporate governance practices. Effective corporate governance practices, we talk about critical evaluation, we talk about challenging decisions, and we talk about holding management accountable. If I bring a younger person onto the board that can't hold the CEO responsible, what have I gained? Nothing. This high power distance culture, it means that the people in positions of authority, sometimes because they're so respected, they are unquestioned. And therefore, they are allowed to exert control without sufficient checks and balances, resulting in centralized decision making, limited transparency, and weaker accountability mechanisms. The second, which I've observed, indeed I teach about it in the business school, I tell people that here, most particularly, a key success factor in your business, or perhaps personally, is the strength of your networks. And therefore, when I mentor people, I'm telling them, expand your network, because they're critical to what it is that you do. People come to the business school, sometimes for the knowledge, many times for the networks, because that's the way that they can expand their businesses, they can do things. There's nothing wrong with that. However, I find that our informal networks and personal relationships sometimes conflict with transparency. Because our culture places a strong emphasis on personal relationships and informal networks, sometimes these things can influence decision making and create potential conflicts of interest, undermining the transparency and fairness of governance practices. I once sat on the board in Nigeria. I was chair of Governance and Nominations Committee. And obviously, we need to vet directors, we need to pass through this process and things. And we had to ensure that to meet regulatory guidelines, we had, a set number of directors that sat on the board. The chairman was very networked, had a very strong informal network that served the organization in various other ways. But because he had this strong network of friends and family, he leveraged the position to see that those people got seats on boards of the company and of associated companies as well. And there are various tricks that we play in order to ensure that those such things can go through. Is either you can say, well, we've checked out all others and this is the one that's most qualified, or it could be that in the interest of time, because we need to meet X deadline or so, we can't do the proper due diligence, but this person is eminently qualified and we can go. We can have this person. It was very challenging to be able to do that because at the risk of saying no, you stood to violate regulatory requirements, which could be detrimental to the organization. So we ourselves were conflicted. What do we do? Do we ensure that this process is followed, or do we do that? I took the risk. Follow the process. You've set up this committee, not just to tick the box that you have it, but then let's do that. So these networks that extend to board appointments, where individuals with close personal ties or connections are more likely to be appointed to board by the chairman or predominant shareholders. Those things, when they're not based on merit or expertise, potentially lead to nepotism, favoritism, and do not contribute to the enshrining of good governance practices. Of course, this impacts the diversity and the independence of boards, because you say to people you are independent. When people say, the other day, a colleague of mine on the board, a fellow director, she said to me, we have in some instances, the majority shareholders, you have the others that are independents, and somebody said a conversation where people were taking sides. Who are you for? She said, I'm not on any side, I'm for the company. But that simple statement is really the duty of care that we owe, because we sit on those boards for the company, not for the person who appointed us to the board, not to the majority shareholder, but to the company. The other thing I would like to speak about is the sharp practices versus ethical standards. We, as a nation, of course, we face challenges with corruption and the perception of corruption. Of course, this conflicts with corporate governance. The codes emphasize ethical conduct, integrity, all of those things. But you know, unfortunately, you remember how I said that, the culture is shaped by society, the way that collectively we behave. Unfortunately, over the past decades, I dare say, the abnormal has become normal in Nigerian society. Because there were no gray areas when I started my working career close to 40 years ago. It was that you knew this way, it was clear, black and white. This is what you do, this is not what it is that you do when it comes to business. But over time, there's been a blurring of the lines, increasingly. And therefore, people coming into the workplace today, the way they understand that business is done is by, to put it plainly, compromise. But they don't see it as compromise. And it's always a challenge. As you know, Lagos Business School, one of the key pillars is the adherence and the teaching about business ethics and adherence to ethical principles. And it's always challenging when people come and we take a multidisciplinary approach to teaching. We don't teach business ethics only as a course. It cuts across every course, regardless of whether it's marketing, finance. And it's very challenging when people come and they're grappling to understand why to be able to give money to somebody to clear the things at the port is wrong. For them, that is the way business is done. To avoid wasting time, we just go, we pay, and then we do it. Or if IFRS comes and locks you and comes up with a stupendous bill, what it is that you do, because you know that you didn't make those revenues, and is that you just have to go and settle. The abnormal has become normal. And then sometimes this comes into the boardroom and the company. Not in overt ways, but sometimes in covert ways. Related party transactions. Sometimes too, there are ways in which, we say as, good practice is that if I have a related party transaction that I bring to the board, I recuse myself. That's the standard way that we deal with conflicts of interest. But then guess what? If I, as a chairman, I have nominated several of those people there, I recuse myself, but I remain. I have exerted subtle pressure on the people. So sometimes it's not in overt ways, it's in covert ways by which these sharp practices come into play. Of course, these sharp practices erode governance standards and trust, not only within the company, but also in the business environment, and hinder the effective implementation of governance code. I would like to speak about, and this I was a bit conflicted. I wondered, if it was a class, I would ask to say, what is your view as to our time orientation? Are we patients in for the long run, or it's short-termism for again for today? And I say this with a bit of caution and trepidation. Sometimes our religiosity as a people have led to long-term patience. We accept things, the companies will feel that things will get better. I don't know if it is hope. I always ask that optimism that you are expressing, is it founded on hope, on the reality that we see? And don't get me wrong, I am a Christian, a believing Christian. I believe in hope of the afterlife. We're doing business here, so let's see how we're going to do this one. It's true. So sometimes our culture, we value patience and long-term orientation, where we can be a very patient group of people. But sometimes this can conflict with the sharp focus on performance. Sharp focus and holding accountable. Remember that we also have a duty of trust, of care, to ensure that we run this. That fiduciary responsibility that we have. We have that duty of care, we have that duty of loyalty. There's several of this that we have. So again, this is something that gets in the way. I've already spoken or alluded to communication styles, that sometimes our culture does not allow for direct communication. Another thing which I found interesting and I didn't know, as a people, collective decision making. My book on the practices of executives in decision making, a guide for executives in Africa. I did research looking at various parts of Africa, North Africa, South Africa, West Africa, East Africa, and saying, how do people make decisions? And I was questioning the individualistic approach versus the collectivist approach to decision making. And we sent out questionnaires and received responses from about close to 1,300, out of which I drew my conclusions. And as a people, we make decisions collectively. We seek consensus. We also have a strong emphasis on extended family ties, communal relationships, and the interdependence. This thing of we're our brother's keeper. He's from my hometown. We must look after our own. We must do this. Sometimes we get in the way of the decisions of the board and good practices, things that are beneficial to the company, because we have a duty of care to the company, not to whoever put us at that side, and not to, now that I'm on this company, I must ensure that they build that factory in my hometown. They will know that at least that is one thing I can say I brought to my hometown. And we steer the decisions. Again, it's not a conversation on decision making, but the ways in which we can steer the conversation and get the board to act in what it is. But then behind, and sometimes it is that we suffer from biases. So it may not be in our consciousness that that's what it is that we're doing. So it's called emotional tagging. It's a bias in which we have strong emotional ties to perhaps communities. But this is what we see the collective decision making. So this group harmony, collective well-being, sometimes are valued over individual needs and the desires of the company. Okay? And then gender and diversity. Of course, over the past decade, we've been talking about, gender diversity. And thank God, at least when we talk about gender in Nigeria, we're still talking male and female. Now, when we talk about gender elsewhere, they keep adding things to the matter. So when we talk, and I'm very confused. So I've agreed on the boards in which I have, there are two boards in which I sit on the governance committee outside. And I said to them, please, for the purpose of this, when I talk about gender diversity, it's male and female. Please, it's not this. And sometimes that in itself is seen as not being politically correct when you make such assertions or statements. But then we have to be guided by something, because we cannot have a board with 59 different people because we want to balance 59 different genders, or how many that they are. But anyway, I digress. So our culture may influence gender dynamics and diversity on board. We have traditional gender roles and biases, the stereotypes, or just our traditional norms about the role of women in society. We have the president that spoke about them being in a certain room. But then, it's that, there's certain gender roles, and it can impact the representation of women on board with a tendency towards male-dominated boards. And even when they are not male-dominated boards, sometimes when women get on board, again, it's not the topic of this conversation, but when I speak to women about, sitting on boards and how, I say to them, you're brought onto that board because you're a female, because you bring feminine qualities, because of your femininity, because you bring that softer side which is inherent in our nature to conversations, as opposed to, the alpha male type. Don't get on that board and then act as a male because you're a board director. No, you were brought there because you're female. But again, it's not only about how the females act, it's about how the board members act. I remember one board that I once was on. I was invited to join the board. I went through the process. I joined the board. It was it was a bank, and I had its roots outside Nigeria. There were 11 board members. I was the only female. Of the 11 board members, 9 were white. There were 2 blacks on the board. And then, we were having this, they were very welcoming of having a female on the board. I certainly didn't feel any microaggression or aggression in any way. The conversations were polite. They asked for my input, the chairman, things were going on. However, I observed that we may start discussing something at the table, and then maybe it's tea break or lunch break. And then, of course, the men go to the men's room, I go to the ladies' room, we continue. And they continue not from where we stopped, but after. I said, what happened? We're discussing this and went, oh no, we just decided this because we were going to the males room together. The conversation continued in the males room. So they came and they assumed that they had finished the discussion. So I had to say to them, guys, let's agree. When we come, you see these discussions, we conclude it here. So you can deliberate. But I also learned something. That because of that, again, it is not deliberate. It is just that it is a male-dominated board. Their thinking, their ways of behavior, the way they do things, it's just there. So again, this cultural norms, these expectations around gender roles may not only limit opportunities for women to participate fully, but the behaviors, I remember I said culture is really about the behaviors, may affect things. And then stakeholder relationships. As I mentioned earlier on, our culture values relationships and social connections. In corporate governance, maybe sometimes this may result in maintaining, of course, we have to maintain positive relationship with stakeholders, such as government officials, regulators, the community, and so on and so forth, because building and maintaining this are crucial for businesses. But again, how far do we go with this? Or the guise of doing this as well? So the last is really, and I just thought I would touch upon that, it's really a large informal economy, okay? And it's true. How many of the enterprises are public quoted or really are formal organizations? Over 95% of the organizations that exist are informal. So sometimes in informal economies, you may not have robust structures for dealing with things because they're operating outside formal regulatory frameworks. And it can create challenges for corporate governance as these informal practices, which have been ingrained in business operations, as organizations grow, those informal practices may continue. And sometimes I find large indigenous companies, and this is no disrespect to indigenous companies who have been able to grow. Large companies, but things are still done based on chairman said, or the CEO or the founder, and it goes in the way of good governance practices. The Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance primarily focuses on providing guidelines for corporate governance principles and practices. And although it does not provide guidelines on managing cultural conflicts, it does encourage companies to adopt governance practices that are consistent with their values, their ethics, and the cultural context. Because I believe it recognizes that cultural factors can impact decision-making, can impact stakeholder relationships, does impact business practices. So therefore, boards and management must consider the social, the cultural, and economic environment in which the company operates. Right now, we discussed the economic environment. That's a no-brainer. When we are talking about organizations, perhaps we should start to discuss the cultural environment and how that's affecting the practices. So as directors, how do we manage these conflicts? I think it is important that we are not only aware, but we consider this in our governance approaches. And I think that to minimize conflicts between this culture and corporate governance, first of all, is to raise awareness. First, an understanding within the organization about this corporate governance. Most times we talk about organizational culture within. Bring into that conversation national culture. How do our practices, these are our brother's keeper, this man knows man, how do they affect what we do in this organization? We must recognize these cultural nuances and we can adapt them to align with local culture. We have to adapt because in Nigeria we have a culture of giving. So when it's Christmas, we will bring a gift. When it's I don't know what, your child is getting married, they will
make me a panelist.
And then governance, good corporate governance, another thing, say acceptance of gifts is wrong. And it was always a conflict. I said, look, in our culture it is. I recognize what it is. That it may lead to potential conflict of interest. Because if I accept a gift for my daughter's wedding from a contractor, when he comes next time looking for a contract, what am I going to do? Which is why you put limits. So when you say ban, that is anti-cultural. But if you say limit, that is recognizing our culture. We're not Oyinbo. Here we give money, we give things, we do. Put limits, that's an example. But there are several other things that can be done. And then to promote ethical leadership, obviously, it is our role as leaders, as board directors, to encourage and nurture ethical leadership. But let's develop this culture that values integrity. Sometimes it's written down. But too many times I've seen organizations in which we have all the code written down, but the practices of the managers, it's really
akin to make the numbers, I don't care how you do it, which is an invitation to, in other words, go out, whichever way you know, just make the numbers. I don't care how you do it. I don't want to know. So that way you cannot accuse whoever of, complicity in this. And then, of course, we need to foster stakeholder engagement, open and constructive dialogues with all stakeholders, employees, shareholders, customers, the local community. Let's understand their expectations. Let's understand their concerns. Let's understand their cultural perspectives. Okay? So I think in summary, these are the conflicts that I have identified, as I mentioned, in just the work that I have done so far. But I think that I would want us to acknowledge that culture does play a significant role in shaping corporate governance practice, but its impact is complex and it interacts with other factors such as the legal system, the institutional frameworks, and the stakeholder expectations. We therefore, as directors, have to be cognizant of these nuances and ensure that in carrying out our duties and responsibilities, we remain mindful of this and establish processes to mitigate this. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Can we rise? Can we rise and applaud the professor? Professor, thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you so very much. Fantastic presentation. Fantastic presentation. I kind of wondered who would have done it better than Professor Enase. Fantastic work done. Thank you so very much, Prof. Okay, fantastic lecture there from Prof. Fantastic lecture there from Prof. Yes, we did say to you that it will be an interactive session. I know that whilst the lecture was being presented, students were taking notes, and because I was taking notes, so just in case I had my notes here too, so I'm sure quite a number of us also did take notes. And oftentimes there will be time for questioning as well. So let's, would I say investigate or interrogate the paper, or better seek for clarity on certain areas that we would need clarity from. So if you have questions for Professor Kenedo, maybe with a raise of hand, there's a microphone in the hall that will be brought to you. Let's get to know what concerns you want addressed. Yes, so let's do it this way. Dr. Shegun, there's a hand raised behind you. Okay. Okay, before then, I think I saw some people walk into the hall, which I can't but recognize. Yes, I did mention his name in absentia. But he's here, the second vice president of IOD, talking about Chinjo Yebanji, FIoD. Can we appreciate his presence here? Yes. I also saw the chairman of the 40th anniversary committee walking as well, talking about Mr. Samuel Yami Akeju, the FIoD. Thank you so very much, sir. We appreciate you. So let's start with the questions. With a raise of hands, let's move as quickly as we can. Dr. Shegun, the microphone. Okay, so let's please introduce yourself and let's have the question.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof, for that very insightful lecture. One is a comment and then my question. My name is Taba Peterside. I just want to really endorse what the Prof said about culture in terms of ways of showing respect. I can fully identify with her. I'm from the South, but even though most my working life has been in Lagos, but I remember again early in my career in the 90s, there was a corporate titan of those days of blessed memory, and we were working on a capital market transaction with him, and he was feared, he was revered and feared by staff and everybody alike. And one day, I was in his office. He summoned me. He just called, Cookie, report to my office, And in the course of putting this transaction together, and then I remember him saying to me, he just dressed me down. He said, "You have no respect." And because things like looking him in the eye, not the physical gestures of respect. I was not disrespecting him, but he just washed me. Then when I came out of the office, his staff were there cowering by the door. They said, "Madam, don't worry, we all get it." That's how he behaves to everybody. So I can fully identify with what she was saying. My question is to do with the remark about how women should behave on boards, because a lot of what we hear is that not necessarily behave as a man, but because I just want her to unpack that statement a little bit, because we spend a lot of time, maybe as women or women directors or in women's forums, telling ourselves that we should be more assertive on a board, maybe the natural tendency to hang back and so on. We shouldn't let that hinder us. So I would just like some clarity on what she means by we shouldn't behave as a man on the board. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. We'll take questions of three, then you respond. So let's have the next question. Fantastic.
Very good morning, and huge thanks again to Professor Okonedo for that excellent paper. Now, my question is this. We talk about culture. Increasingly, delivery of services is done by the public and private sector, okay? And the realpolitik of it, in this country at least, is that politics often gets in the way. So it's not unusual to find a politician who says, right, there's this project and I'm going to deliver it in my constituency. So the question is this, for a director, how do you square that circle of that political imperative? Okay, you're trying to be optimal in your business ethics, being very focused on corporate governance, but the realpolitik, okay, which is not what politicians say, but what they actually do. How do you square that circle as an independent director who is focused on effective and proper ethics? Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Going through the circle of political interference in board decisions. Fantastic. And next question? Yes. Dr. Wide Laguju, so good to have you in our midst. Thank you for coming, Dr. Wide. Thank you so very much. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the lecture. I would have loved to know what happened to the woman who was cowed down at that first board meeting. Yeah, and I would want us to have another address. Let everybody who is involved in leadership have alternative, so that let's learn to walk away when it comes to things like that. I was a victim of this 20 years ago. As a CEO, I had fired a manager who misbehaved. Then there was a board member from the South who was saying the man is from minority area, and they wanted to call him back. And I said, okay, call him back, and I quit. And they said, what do you mean? So second day I resigned. I told my wife I'm resigning, and I resigned. I walk away from the official residence, leave their SUV for them. I can afford another car. And I have 2-bedroom flat reserved in my house when they took me to official residence. So I could go somewhere else. And they were afraid to collect the resignation from me. The man had to go finally. I think we should learn to walk away. Learn to say, this is what I'm doing. You do the right thing, stand on that right thing. If you have to leave, leave. Live honorably. I think that's something I want to add to it, so that when we're in leadership, let us not be afraid of saying goodbye to unethical behavior of people. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Let Professor respond to these three. Okay, 2 questions, 1 intervention. We'll take one more. Okay, 1 more question. Yes. Gender balancing.
Yes, because if you didn't give it to me, I would scream and I would say everybody who spoke, it should be 2-2. Yes,
David. So good to have you in the house.
Yes.
I didn't notice you.
You've blown my cover.
Fantastic, Dr. Lucy.
It's gender. My sister Taba spoke, 2 men spoke, and now I should speak. 50-50. Anyway, thank you very much, Prof, for that good talk. It was very good. I just have something to say. It's not a question per se. There's something that I see that most of us do, which is similar to what my brother just said, Dr. Dutola. We get invited to boards, we don't take time to look at who are the people that are on that board, do our own due diligence on the perspectives of these people, and see the values of that company, and see how you can fit, because at the end of the day, the board is about team dynamics. And if you feel it doesn't feel right, say, you're not interested, and the right one will come along. Because sometimes as we sign up and say you're on that board, whether you choose to walk away later or whatever, you were there, your name is there, and the internet doesn't forget. And now with blockchain technology, they will ask you somewhere, you were here before. So I think we should do that due diligence as a director. Do your own search, and people have profiles everywhere. Find out their antecedents and see if you belong in that team. If you don't, say goodbye right from the beginning.
Thank you so very much. Prof, you want to stay right there and respond? Yes, what do you think?
Well, thank you very much. Father, okay, good. You asked a question on how women should behave on board. Be yourself. Just be yourself. You know, you need to recognize the qualities for which you were invited to join the board. And increasingly, a few years ago, when people invited women to join boards, sometimes it was an act of tokenism. In other words, we need to fulfill regulation. Or, right now people are saying women should be on boards, and therefore, they do that. But that's change. It's long change. So now, when people are invited to come on board, it's true we need to balance the gender, but then you do bring something to the table. And I think it's for those qualities. So really, if you were, before you came, you were assertive, confident, I don't want to use the word brash, remain so. If you weren't, don't think that because I'm there, I need to behave like the other men. No, just be yourself. That's what I mean. Okay, so sometimes we feel that, you know how it is, especially, for some of us that maybe we're new to boards, it's something we feel that there's a certain way that we should behave, and we mirror the behavior of those who stay there. And if they're predominantly male, we tend to mirror that. So again, that would be my advice. And then Cindy had asked the question about, how do you square this? To paraphrase, I think your question is, how do you remain ethical? I think that's the paraphrase, in the face of pressures that may come from politicians' pain. So therefore, I think, you need to stand your ground. But as organizations, we need to establish our goals. And we need to determine whether we're in for the short term or we're in for the long term. Because, the research shows, and indeed, you can come to the business school where we will show the research and use case studies of organizations that have decided that, we want to be in for the long run, and therefore will remain ethical, and how long term they have outperformed others. And that's what, that's what all the studies, that's what the research shows. But then to be able to do that, sometimes we don't have deep pockets, and standing your ground means that, the company may go under. But if you weather it and long, I know organizations that have left their things, at the ports for months on end, because they didn't want to engage in corruption. After 18 months, what they had to weather the storm. After a while, people get used to the fact that, these ones they don't give. No need to waste your time. So stand your ground. So remind yourself that you're in for the long term. Remind yourself that you're building a sustainable business. Remind yourself that if you can weather the storm, you will be standing not only today, tomorrow, 50, 100 years time. So do that. And then, yes, I like the comments that have been made about accepting board appointments. Thank you. I think that your comments are, apt in terms of doing your due diligence, and it could occur in any number of things. I once was invited to join a board. It was made up of, it was a board in the oil sector. And at the time, yes, they had 17 board members, most of whom, 16 of whom had worked in the particular organization, one of the oil majors, and had then left to set up this oil company. And 17 of them were male. Yes, I said to them, how will I do? You 17 of you, all of you have worked in the same organization. All of you are very confident of your knowledge about the business. You have done it never worked in oil company. I don't know anything. No, it wasn't his own company, eh? It wasn't Momo or Seven Energy, you know. So, but then again, you need to do your due diligence. And then sometimes people are in for the wrong. Sometimes, you know, you need to be careful. And I think all of us have experienced that. Somebody nominates you because they think that you will act in their interest. Again, we always have to remind ourselves the duty of care that we owe to the company, not to the person that nominated us. I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Prof. We have more questions in the house. Do we have more questions? Let all our participants, online participants, understand that you could also send a question or two. We'll respond virtually right about now. Before that, I have a few comments coming up online for Prof. I was hoping there are questions, but they happen to be comments. This participant says the presentation is fantastic. That's coming from Shola Ephraim Oluwanuga. Well done, Professor Okonedo. Your presentation was insightful and practical with very relatable anecdotes. Thank you. A great paper. One other participant did say, excellent presentation with new perspectives. Congratulations, Prof. Another one says, very insightful and practical, Prof. There are profs and there are professors. All thumbs up. All thumbs up for Professor Okonedo. We owe a duty. Sir, you want a microphone? Oh, fantastic. Oh, okay. Fantastic. We owe a duty of care to the company that nominated us. That's what someone did say here. No, it's a response. Well, that's what this participant did say here. Okay, so more questions, sir. Sorry to have kept you waiting, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to join Mr. President. Thank you very much. I also want to join my colleagues in commending our keynote speaker, Prof. Each time we come across you, you're always there. We wish you continued strength. Permit me, my name is Femi Ekundayo, a past president of the Institute. Prof, there is a topical issue that you touch on, and that is related party transactions. And I know a number of people hold various views, some to the extreme left, some to the extreme right. I want to seize the opportunity of your presence here. You mentioned somebody who says, well, I can excuse myself, but at the same time, it's in the room. I also know people who say, oh, once it is related, don't even bring it up at all. So somebody is losing, somebody will be gaining. If it is the kind of transaction that can benefit the organization. So taking advantage of your presence here, can you give us some guide as to how to handle related party transactions? Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Past President. Any further questions for Dr. Okonedo? In the absence of none. In the presence of none or absence of none, I don't know anymore. Prof, please respond and let's run.
Thank you, Mr. Ekundayo, one of my seniors in the financial services and banking sector you must have known me in my early days of banking many decades ago. So thank you. I'm sure you can, you've experienced some of that, so you can, you probably have your thoughts on that. It's true. So the rule of thumb is that, sometimes it's not easy, but whoever is bringing a related party transaction must be mindful of the fact that we need to follow the process that is being done to ensure that it's on an equal footing and given equal consideration as any other proposal or bid that is being considered. That's the first. It takes courage, it takes discipline. I've especially seen that with companies in which there are founders. So you founded owner-managed companies. So you found that organization. You've grown with that organization. You look at it as your own. When you first started, the wife was the one doing the supply and things there. You've grown sometimes maybe even to a public company, but again, that still remains. So it takes courage, it takes discipline for us to divorce ourselves, to separate ourselves, our person, from the entity. So that's the first, is that we need to discipline ourselves. We need to be sure that it's given due consideration. The second is that let's not expect pressure on the people there. But again, as I mentioned, and as you rightly said, it may be an overt, it may be a more subtle pressure. Personally, my rule of thumb is that, you know what, there's many fish in the ocean. I don't have to do the business with this company. I can take it somewhere else. If I have an organization that I feel is good, is strong, I will be able to win that in another place. I don't necessarily have to do that. It's a bit incestuous, in my opinion. But if what the service that you offered, it is only this particular organization that offers it, which I'm, I have interest in, then I have no choice. But let's recuse ourselves from the room, so that it can, that discussion can be frank and can be objective. And then there may also be people, sometimes I've had people recuse themselves from the room. Indeed, in one instance, I actually asked that it was a transaction that involved the chairman. And therefore, I asked the chairman to recuse himself from the room. Sometimes when that happens, we have people in the board that may say, and so said so, and so said so. So the man knows who was against their bid, and that translates into bad blood. But again, it's to remove yourself from there, ensure that you're disciplined enough not to exert pressure. Where possible, you don't need to do that business here, take it somewhere else. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Prof, could you please address this position that was expressed by someone online? It did say, we owe a duty of care to the company that nominated us.
You're not nominated by the company. You are nominated to serve on the company board, but you are nominated by individuals. You may be nominated by the chairman, in which case you feel that your role on the board is to protect the interests of the chairman, even when it goes against the interests of the company. So the duty of care that we owe is to the company, not to whoever nominated us.
Fantastic. Can we put hands together for Prof? Yes, we can take a few more questions. Few more questions. Prof, you're open to a few more questions again. Yes, you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. You've done great justice to the topic. And I would like to come from the angle, my name is Damilola Sanaya James, representing Comerclac. I would like to come from the angle of, when you're making board appealing to younger generation, and you said something about younger generation looking at seeing abnormal as normal. So now you have to understand that their cultural nuances is the abnormal. How do you try to balance, you talk about boundaries and limitation. How do you balance that projecting good governance? Because, in the younger generation now, we want a fast food method of doing things. And we think processes can be too long and complex. So how do you help us to manage all of that?
Thank you very much. More questions? Any further hands raised? Oh, yes.
My prof, we'll join you at LBS next week. My question is related to independent director. Do we consider independent director on a board as a catalyst? Should it be regarded as a catalyst? Then, you spoke about the issue of cultural norms. In the real sense of the governance at the board level, do you truly believe that that culture you spoke about really have effect in taking some critical decisions at the board? For example, you say, oh, the chairman or one of the directors is a majority shareholder, assuming a lot of influence, and is an elder. Should that truly impair your sense of judgment? Thank you.
Very much. Prof?
Yes, thank you for the question as to how to help younger people. And I do acknowledge the fact that it's exactly what I said, that the abnormal has become normal. And I like the way you put it, because you say now that what we consider normal is now the culture. However, if such a person, and remember that we're speaking about this in the context of boards and directors, and therefore, if a young person comes with their culture, so remember that the focus of this conversation was on external culture, and I said I wasn't going to speak about internal culture, organizational culture, which is when we talk about the corporate culture. It is my hope that that is already established within the company, that that young person is being invited to join. And therefore, when he joins, he understands that this is the culture, the organizational culture. And as organizational culture, I always say that there's an alignment. Somebody mentioned the fact about doing your due diligence. There's an alignment of things. So before you join, you will know that this is the way they do things here. Is this something that I can, or no, I would rather go and do that. So again, is that when you join an organization, you need to sort of conform and adhere to the corporate culture, the organizational culture that's there. That's the only way to deal with it. How to address what has become abnormal in the wider society, I have no solution. Thank you. And you asked the question about whether independent directors are catalysts. A catalyst, I mean, I think that it's a chemical that sort of precipitates and it ignites something that precipitates an unusual reaction, okay? I don't want to look at independent directors there, because regardless of whether you are a non-exec or you are independent, all of us have a duty of care. And a catalyst is who ignites things. In other words, who brings, I think it will be in the context of who brings things forward, and anyone can do that. It doesn't mean that it's only the independent that can ignite things. You also asked the question whether I do believe that culture affects corporate governance. As I mentioned, it is my experience. I was coming from a place of what I have seen and observed. And yes, I do believe, which is why I spent 40 minutes discussing this, I do believe that it does affect corporate governance practices. And I think that it is true for several of us. We may have experienced or observed that that is the case. So it is the reality. This is not academic or theory. This is coming from a position of having seen that. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you. Can we put us together some more for Professor? Thank you. I noticed there are a few more questions online, but unfortunately the network is doing me some magic here. But I would read a few that I can read. Maybe Prof would oblige us and respond. Prof has just 5 minutes more, so if she does not respond to the questions, we would excuse her. It appears that corruption is now a way of life in Nigeria, particularly as there is barely any accountability and lack of consequences for those in position of significant authority. I therefore wonder how good corporate governance can be enthroned in our dear country under what may have become cultural norms. Your insights will be appreciated in this regard. Rob, you want to talk to that? Yes.
Thank you. It is the truth. But as I look around this room, I see people that sit atop organizations or lead organizations in which they have not allowed themselves to be affected by the cultural norms. If I may give an example of the Guardian newspapers with our chairman of today, Chairs, she's a publisher of the Guardian newspapers. I think that in this environment, we do know about the media houses. We do know the ones that can be compromised. We do know the ones that can be compromised. And several decades on, the Guardian is still going strong, still has the reputation intact. So it is, thank you. Yes, it's true. It's true. And I mean, I can go on and on from each table to just sort of list the organization. So I think that sometimes we think that it is an impossibility, but it is not an impossibility, because organizations exist, not only exist, but thrive in this same environment in which these are practices. So let's not give up. Let's not think that, oh, you know what, there's nothing, it can't be helped. We must do this way. Examples abound of organizations that have succeeded in doing this. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Let's put our hands together some more for Prof. I think she's done justice to the conversation today. She deserves a lot more than that. Can we put our hands together for Professor Okonedo? I apologize to all our online participants that we couldn't read their questions, but I'm sure there will be a way these questions can be directed to Prof for response. May I invite President Chief host, Dr. Mrs Ije Jidenma FIoD, please come and do us the honors. It's about that time when we would make a presentation to our special lecturer today. So can we, Madam President? Yes, on the stage. Fantastic.
Okay, we would like to have the president supported by the past presidents here present and the office bearers to please come up stage to support the president in presenting this appreciation plaque to our guest speaker, Professor Enase Okonedo. Let's give her a round of applause as she comes. Okay, we can have the chairman of the occasion, Chief Dr. Mrs. Ije Jidenma, to please. Yes. Our chairman, Lady Maiden Hebrew, and Chief Dr. Mrs. Ije Jidenma. Take care.
Thank you very much. I wanted to avoid that, bringing everybody to climb to this elevation, but they've all smartly done so. Thank you. You will all agree with me that Professor Enase Okonedo has done justice to this. We must keep on celebrating what is right with us in Nigeria, in Africa, so that the best would come out. On this note, I would like to, sorry,
we have the Ambassador Shuaibu. Please, let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Yes. Sorry for the sleep. Yes, as Enase rightly observed about the pecking order, the essence, the contextual nature of corporate governance, even within the culture. I would like to cede this to the most senior past president here, Mr. Femi Akindare. Thank you to make the president.
And that's something you have to be very careful about culture. Because the professor referred to me as a senior colleague in banking, but today she's my lecturer. And she's done it so wonderfully well. Any day, anytime, we are proud of you. Prof, keep it flag. On behalf of the President, Sub-Directors Nigeria, this flag is being presented to Professor Enase Okonedo who is also a fellow of our Vivad Institute, and who we are proud to recognize as the Vice Chancellor of Lagos Business School. Thank you very much. It started from there, and what it is today, it has been built through good mix of culture and corporate governance to become the Pan-Atlantic University. Again, we are proud of you. In appreciation of your presence and role as keynote speaker at the Institute's Biennial lecture, today, Thursday, 15th June 2023. And this is signed by our President and Chairman of Council, Dr. Mrs Ije Jidenma, fellow of the Institute of Directors. Congratulations.
Thank you. We'll have a second set of photographs. Others can leave, but the chairman of the occasion, please hold on, ma. The chairman of the occasion and our special guest, first vice president, second vice president, should please wait. Thank you very much. Others can take their seats. Thank you. Thank you very much. Prof, they are asking to see the flag. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's okay. Let's release Prof. Please, let's give Prof another round of applause. Thank you very much, Prof. So that we don't keep us waiting, we are ready to go to lunch. And lunch is served. Lunch is ready. We will start with the first table, table number 1. That's the table of the president. Yes, we can move right now. We can have the president's table take the lead as we go to lunch. Madam President, Madam President can lead us to lunch. Go to lunch, ma. We need to go to lunch now. We can have the table of the past presidents to follow after the table of the presidents. Madam President is leading and we are following. We can have the second table, the table of the past presidents. And table 3, it's time to go to lunch. Table 3, it's time to go to lunch now. Ma, it's time to go to lunch. To tell them. The president's table is taking the lead, followed by the table of the past presidents. And table 3. Okay, table 3. Mrs. Rufai. Mrs. Rufai. Okay, have you arranged? They'll bring us. Okay. First Vice President. Then we move to the next table.
And our honorary treasurer, that's the 3-time treasurer of the Institute. We want to thank him for his professional services to the Institute. Thank you very much. And to the last, but definitely not the least, my immediate past president, Chief Okunowo, whose wisdom and advice has always been very helpful in navigating the terrain of presidency. Thank you very much, Chief Okunowo. Thank you for still having the time for us. Thank you very much.
So after this set of presentation, it will be the turn of the chairman of the policy committees of the Institute, who are also members of the executive committee of the Institute. Not every chairman was able to make it today, but we have quite a number of them here, so I would like to invite to the podium. So I want to invite to the podium Mr. Victor Eromosele, FIoD, Prince Dapo Adelego. Okay. Mr. Victor Eromosele is the chairman of the Energy and Power Committee of the Institute. Prince Adedapo Adelego, FIoD, is the chairman of the Industry and Commerce Committee of the Institute. We have some of the chairmen who have traveled out of the country who are online, but unfortunately we can't present online, but we'll be sending them their plaque later on. Okay. We have Mr. Amnamdi Okafor FIoD online, And we have Mrs. Folusha Olaniyan FIoD online. Okay. Mrs. Folusha Olaniyan is the chairman of Agric and Agro-Allied Committee, while Mr. Nnamdi Okafor FIoD is the chairman of the Health and Social Security Committee.
Thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I know that some of our members, some of them have gone on vacation, but they will still have their plaque because I enjoyed support. I enjoyed their support. They worked very hard. They sacrificed time, talent, and resources to make things happen and bring out very good communiques that would aid policy making. In this regard, I would like, it's my great pleasure to make this presentation to Mr. Victor Eromosele. Victor Eromosele has in the past 2 years served as the chairman of the Energy and Power Committee, and he has done us proud in so many ways. Thank you. So it's my distinguished pleasure to make this presentation to the chair of our Industry, Trade and Investment Committee, Prince Adedapo Adelegan, FIoD. He has worked very much, worked tirelessly to make sure that we are abreast of things in this particular area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay. So we'll now do members of the standing committee who are here. We have Mrs. Fumi Oyetunji, FIoD. Mrs. Oyetunji is the chairman of the Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee. We also have here Dr. Adeyinka Azan, FIoD, the chairman of the Young Directors Advisory Committee.
Let me say thank you very much to an indomitable Amazon who has been very, very painstaking in the discharge of our duties as the chair of Audit, Risk and Compliance Committee. We want to thank you very much for all that you do for the institute. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And for our Young Directors Forum, my privilege to make this presentation to the chair of the Young Directors Advisory Committee. Dr. Hassan worked very hard to see that this became a reality, and is still working to see that it is sustained. Thank you very much, Dr. Hassan. Thank you.
I would like to confirm if Mrs. Ije Jidenma is in the hall.
Jeez. My apologies, madam. I didn't know you were in the hall. I really, really apologize. Sorry about that. Can you please come upstage, please? I actually returned the plaque when it was given to me that you were not around. I really apologize. I didn't know you were around. I also like to invite to the podium Dr. Lucy Newman, FIoD, Chairman of the IoD Nigeria and Financial Reporting Council Joint Committee.
Yes, it's my singular honor to make this presentation to an exceptional Amazon, Mrs. Ije Jidenma FIoD. Mrs. Jidenma has been very, very courageous in her lead of the Tourism and Hospitality Committee. We owe her a great deal in all that she has been able to do for this city. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to make this presentation to Dr. Lucy Newman, FIoD CPT. Dr. Lucy worked as the chairman of our strategic partnership with FRC and Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria. Thank you very much, Dr. Lucy, for your time and for diligence in executing this work. And I hope you continue to give time to the institute. Thank you.
So we have left this last set of committee to the last because they are like the big masquerade. These are committees that are led by our revered past presidents. Before I go into that, let me announce that some members of our ad hoc committees, some chairmen who actually wanted to be here, I particularly want to mention that Alhaji Lamis Diko actually was supposed to leave Abuja this morning on the first flight, but because of rain, the flight was delayed, and the flight was delayed until after 10 a.m. So there was no point in him flying again. So he's with us in spirit. For the council committees, I would like to invite the two past presidents that are here now. Mr. Chike Unwanze, Distinguished Fellow of the Institute, and Chairman of our Independent Directors Register Committee. A round of applause for him, ladies and gentlemen. Architect Thomas Awagu. Architect Thomas Awagu, DFIOD, Distinguished Fellow of the Institute, is the Chairman of the Fellows and Awards Committee of the Institute. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. So you see, like someone mentioned the other day, that in IoD, the good thing is that, it's a continuous, leadership is a continuous. And we are just privileged to keep getting the services of our presidents, even when they leave, so that we enjoy the wisdom of experience. And I'm really delighted and honored to make this presentation to our past president, highly respected past president, Mr. Chike Unwanze. He has been very supportive and he shares our independent directors committee, the register committee. Thank you very much, sir, for all that you do, the time and so on, making sure that things are properly there. God bless you. I'm also pleased to make this presentation to past President Awago, TC Awago, the chair of Fellows and Awards Committee. Whatever we come up with, the committee will sit back and analyze, use their criteria to make sure that things are standardized. And in this respect, past President Awago has been very, very diligent in doing that. I thank you for your support. I thank you for all the extra time that you have to put extra work that you've been undertaking to ensure that things are properly done. Thank you. God bless.
I would now like to invite the chairman of today's occasion, Lady Made in Hebrew, MIOD, to please step up to collect our plaque of appreciation for our presence at today's event.
Before our chairman comes on board, I would like to really say thank you very much for all your support. Half of the people are not in this room, but they know themselves. They know how they work tirelessly to ensure that we succeed. For instance, I got a message from Alhaji Lamis Diko. He was held up at the airport, and he had served as chair of Annual Directors Conference for 2 years, as well as vice chair of the Charter Committee. He worked very hard. So thank you everyone online, here, and those that are not able to be here. All of you, you know yourself. And I'm just using this opportunity to say that I'm very, very grateful. Thank you very much. Thank you. It is really a great privilege for the Institute to make this presentation to a remarkable lady. And I think at this stage, I have to stick this to the chair of the 40th Anniversary Committee to make this presentation to the chairman of occasion. Because it's a two-in-one event that we are having today. So may I call on past President Biennial to make this presentation. Thank you very much.
To a distinguished chairman of this very important biennial lecture, this signals the end of another era in the Institute of Directors Nigeria. It is my honor and pleasure on behalf of the Governing Council, dear President, to present this plaque, this special token of our appreciation for your presence here, for support you have given to us on this very important occasion. Thank you very much.
Madam President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me also recognize the presence in our midst of the Registrar, CEO of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria, Mr. Akimorakio. I hope I got that right. Yes, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much.
All right, I think the sun is about to set in a couple of minutes. But before we leave, let's say a very big thank you to all our sponsors once again. We appreciate your support. We appreciate all you've done for the Institute. In no particular order, I want to appreciate the Boa Group for what they've done. Fantastic assistance to the Institute. I also want to say a very big thank you to the group, the Chrome Group. The Chrome Group, they are here. Thank you so very much. A very big thank you to the Oil Serve. Oil Serve, fantastic support. Umu Guinea is also here. Yes, Umu Guinea Pipeline Infrastructure Limited, they're also here. Thank you for your support. And also a very big thank you to the International Breweries Limited, PLC. Thank you for your support. Well, I've just been told that we have representatives of the Chrome Group here, fantastic individuals. Thank you so very much for, you want to do a minute? You have a minute to, okay, please come. Come, 1 minute before we run. If we can we just put our hands together as I welcome the representative of the executive director of Chrome Group, one of our biggest sponsors. Thank you so very much. Let's.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us. We are from the Chrome Group. Basically, I'm the executive director for Inland Express Nigeria Limited. Basically, we're also part of the Chrome Group as well. And I'm also here with Mr. Fred, who's also the director and also the director of KIDP, Kaduna Inland Dry Ports. So I stand on every existing protocol. This is a very, very lovely program that IOD has set up for the 2023 Biennial lecture, and we want to say thank you so much for inviting us. Unfortunately, the Vice Executive Chairman isn't here. He couldn't make it due to some top schedule, so we are here to represent him in this occasion. And for this moment, he decided that he would give a sponsorship, a gold sponsorship of about the sum of 2.5 million in draft to the IOD institution. So I just want to say thank you so much, and we will definitely get back to him, and he will definitely get in touch with the institution. Thank you so much for inviting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much as well. Can we put our hands together once again? Gigi, you have a drum. Oh, yes.
Thank you very much. Madam President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, because this is a special edition of the biennial lecture, because we are hosting this lecture as we all also host the 40th anniversary of the Institute, we would like to give special toast to kind of celebrate the lecture, celebrate the Institute, and also celebrate the charter status of the Institute. And we would like to toast to 4 organs or 4 institutions, whichever way we may describe them, who have one way or the other, among others, have contributed to ensuring that we were able to get the charter. We're going to be inviting guests to please do the toast on behalf of the Institute. And we just believe it's an opportunity. We've not been able to wine and dine since the charter was announced. The first institution we want to toast to is the institution that gave us the chartership, and that is the federal government of Nigeria. And on behalf of the Institute, I would like to invite one of the founding members of the Institute, a revered fellow, a 2-time Minister of the Federal Republic, Chief Dr. Mrs. Onikepo Akonde, to please give the toast to the federal government. Toast to the federal government, Federal Republic of Nigeria. I beg your pardon. Toast to the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
The President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to give a toast to Nigeria, a great country, a country that is blessed with milk and honey, a country where even if you grow a seed, you will get something bigger than that. If you grow a finger, you will see a whole human being. Nigeria, my great country. Please drink to the toast of Nigeria, my great country.
Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Federal Republic of Nigeria. Nigeria, there is no country like Nigeria.
Yes, so.
Thank you.
The only country where I don't have to fill an immigration form when I'm coming in. Thank you very much. Kindly have your seat, ladies and gentlemen. But please, you have to indulge me. I will still make you do some exercises. We also want to appreciate all the labor of our leaders past. I am intentionally using the word leaders because I don't want to be controversial. At least that is accepted. And we want to give a toast to the past presidents of IOD Nigeria, people who have worked for this organization that is today standing tall at 40. And I would like to invite to give this toast to the past president and leadership of the Institute, Mr. Chike Nwanze, Distinguished Fellow of the Institute. Okay, that's very true. I think I would like to invite Asiwaju Fọláoṣìbọ to please take that toast for the past president. Asiwaju Fọláoṣìbọ, please. Thank you, sir.
Right, in honoring all the past presidents and acknowledging all the works that they have done in bringing the Chartered Institute of Directors to this level. Let us take our tumblers and drink to their toast.
Please, everyone, kindly rise, except the past presidents.
They have done a lot of work to bring the institute to this level. So the past presidents.
To the past presidents, to the past presidents of Nigeria.
More productive life, more contributions, and the outgoing presidents as well. And the outgoing president who will be joining the League of Past Presidents very soon. To your toast, ma. God bless.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, a committee started work, I think about 6-7 years ago, or even 8 years ago, to start preparing the ground for our chartership. And it is important that we also recognize them and appreciate what they've done. So this last toast will be to the Charter Bid Committee of the Institute, led by Mr. Kelechi Ozuzu. Unfortunately, he cannot be here this morning, and all its members. And it's my pleasure to invite the chairman of the 40th Anniversary Committee, Mr. Yemi Akeju, Distinguished Fellow, to do the toast. So I think any member of the Charter Committee that is there should please remain seated while we all stand to appreciate these men and women who have done a good job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm here on behalf of the President, the 17th President of the Institute of Directors, Nigeria, Dr. Ije Jidenma, who has been your very unique privilege to land this very golden charter for our great institute. I remember that we started with many years ago to push this forward. It wasn't easy, but we set up committees to work on it, and we want to acknowledge the efforts of Mr. Ozuzu, who has worked very hard over the last 6 years to push this through, and they have been supported by a committee, task force, to see this through. On behalf of our charter president, members of our great institute, it is my honor and pleasure to propose this toast, the hard work, the resourcefulness, and the sacrifice that has been put together to land us the Chartered Institute of Directors Nigeria. Toast to the committee.
To the Charter Committee.
To the Charter
Toast to the Charter Committee. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Madam President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have the singular honor and privilege to, on behalf of the Institute, say a very big thank you to all our special guests. I want to say thank you, especially to our guest lecturer. She's left now, but I think she's left the mark, and we must appreciate her. Wonderful lecture, very practical, quite touching. I'm sure it's going to lead to also a lot of other discussion after this. So thank you to Professor Enase Okonedo, Fellow of the Institute. We also want to thank the chairman of today's occasion, our indefatigable publisher of the Guardian newspaper, Lady Maiden Hebrew. We can't tell the story of how much you have supported the Institute just in one occasion. And let me let something out of the bag now. Some years ago, we started discussing with Guardian about having out in Guardian on corporate governance. And today, the publisher of the newspaper has told me that within the next 2 weeks, we're going to have, at least for now, a page on corporate governance to be anchored by IOD Nigeria on the Guardian newspaper. So please, a round of applause to our chairman. Thank you very much, man. I want to thank our sponsors. Without them, this may not have happened. The Boa Group, the Chrome Group, Oil Serve Limited, Umugini and the International Bureaus PLC. We thank them very much for the support they've given us. I also want to thank members of the presidency of the Institute, the first vice president to the second vice president, the honorary treasurer, and of course the immediate past president. I want to thank you all for your presence at this event. I want to thank our great pillar of support, our mama, Chief Dr. Mrs. Ije Jidenma. We have always invited you and we've always answered us. Thank you very much, ma. We don't take it for granted at all. We appreciate you. Thank you very much. I want to thank the past president of the Institute. They were here in very good number today. Past President Awagu was there. Past President Femi Kundaya was there. Past President Chike Nwanze is here. Of course, past President Yemi Akeju is here. And of course, the immediate past president is also here. Thank you very much for coming. Of course, I should not leave out past President Ahmed Rufai Mohammed. He was also here all the way from Abuja. Thank you very much. We thank you. I also want to thank our chief host. If you do not appreciate the chief host, you are taking a lot for granted. I can say that she was the first person to arrive here today. And of course, that shows that she's the person receiving all of us. Thank you very much, Madam President. Dr. Mrs. Ije Jidenma, Fellow of the Institute, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the leadership over the years. As the Executive Secretary of FRCN was reading out some of the things we were able to achieve with FRCN, I remember what my children would do when you do that kind of thing. Because when you do something, that is the way these new people, they say it. Okay, I missed it, sorry. So there's so much to say for in terms of achievement of what our president has done in the last 2 years. Thank you very much, ma. The icing on the cake was the charter. A round of applause again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Madam President. And of course, to members of the 40th Anniversary Planning Committee, I want to say a very big thank you. You've done a yeoman job led by the chairman, Mr. Yemi Akeju. Thank you very much, sir, for the leadership. And to all the members, we say a very big thank you. And of course, to the Secretariat, my colleague in the Secretariat, I thank you very much for the support to ensure that we have a successful biennial conference. Like I always say, the reward of hard work is small work. So we still have, and ladies and gentlemen, the annual general meeting of the Institute holds next week. That's the first thing, as is on the 22nd of June, 2023, next week, Thursday, at the Secretariat. And lastly, I hope you have voted. Those of you that are members of the Institute, please exercise your civic right and vote for your candidate of choice for the Governing Council of the Institute. The voting is still on until Saturday, 17th of June. So please vote so that we continue to have the right kind of people in our Governing Council. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you all for coming, all our guests. We say a very big thank you for sparing the time. And we wish you very well and wish you a very wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, DG. May we all rise for the national anthem? Thank you. May we all rise for the national anthem. Oh, yes, indeed.
Thank you very much. I forgot we got somebody to do that. Thank you.
DG, thank you so very much for the job well done. Thank you so very much. Have a great afternoon. It's a wet day, so drive carefully and have a good day. Bye for now.